Let's go to Albert Breer. Joining us live, Monday Morning Quarterback, covered the NFL since 2005. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Story out, Nathaniel Hackett, Jets look to replace him. So the Lazard thing didn't work. Cobb's at the end of his career. Hackett was a miss. Is that signal anything beyond we got to get better at OC? Does it signal now a team saying, yeah, we're going to take a little bit back the football back? We're going to make the decisions. What do you make of that story?
I mean, I think you can tie it to something else that happened this offseason, too, which was the tackle need, right? And one of Aaron Rodgers' closest friends and a guy who's a former All-Pro, and David Bakhtiari, was going to become available, and the Jets didn't wait for him. And, you know, I think if this was a year ago, you might have seen that, where the Jets would have waited for David Bakhtiari and signed David Bakhtiari, because that's what Aaron would have wanted. Instead, they go out and get Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, and they draft Olu Fashanu. So, yeah, I mean, I think to some degree they've taken their foot off the pedal a little bit when it comes to just appeasing Aaron. But look, like a big part of that is that the evidence they have now to present to Aaron on the way some of those things went last year. So I think you are onto a little something there, Colin. I don't think it's totally, no, we're not doing these sorts of things for you, Aaron, at all anymore. But, certainly I think just bringing in his buddies, maybe what will be the saying, the blooms off the flower a little bit there. Yeah. I might have mixed that one up, but the blooms off the flower a little there.
Yeah. You know, it's I was saying this. I saw a story about the quarterback room for the Bears and Justin Fields. And listen, I've found in my years of doing this, and it's why I do a segment, Calling Right, Calling Wrong. Fans believe in quarterbacks, and they just won't move off them, right? Like, this is my guy. I said he was going to be a star. And at some point, you have to admit, like, Justin Fields just didn't get better. And the story that comes out in the quarterback room is that two of the least polarizing personalities in the last 20 years, Nick Foles and Andy Dalton, tried to help him, and he's like, nah, I'm not interested. And I think word travels fast in this league. Maybe that got out because reportedly the quarterback room, it's hard to think of Andy Dalton and toxic in the same sentence. What do you make of that story on Fields?
So, like, I would say there's part of it that really rang true, which is the thing about his eyes, right? Like, that is really the primary problem with him as a player. And even guys who really like him as a person would tell you he doesn't see it fast enough. And you have to find a way, and it's hard with a quarterback, to get him to see it faster so he can play faster. And that's where a lot of the holding the ball and not seeing things happen in front of him came into play. So I think the criticism from that story on his eyes was 100% where it needed to be. Like, that's criticism that has circulated in NFL circles for a while now. The other part of it, the stuff about his attitude and personality, I haven't heard as much, and I just, I go back to, what the coaches at Ohio State thought of him. And then a lot of the coaches who've been with the Bears the last few years thought of him, and even what Ryan Poles thought of him, and consistently saying, we want to do right by Justin. Like, the people I've talked to, that have been with the Bears the last few years have pretty consistently said to me, like, this is a kid who does everything right, that has the right attitude, that's a good teammate, that's a good worker, that wants to get better. And it just didn't happen at a fast enough rate to prevent them from going in on Caleb Williams. In fact, there's a story from last year, and I don't know if you remember this, Colin, but this story was out there and caused quite a stir. I think it was in October, where Justin Fields said something in a press conference that was mildly critical of the coaching. Yeah. And, it got out there on social media and really kind of took on a life of its own quickly. And the story I heard was Justin, saw it on his phone that social media had picked it up, and that, a narrative was starting to be spun there. And he almost immediately sprinted down the hall to Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator's office, to go and apologize to him. So, again, this is a guy who I think was pretty well liked in the Bears building. And I'm not saying that the stuff that was in there from his rookie year with Dalton and Foles is completely untrue. I'm not sure about that. But this is a kid who had a pretty good reputation in the Bears building. And, that's one reason why the Bears wanted to do right by him when they were offloading him back in the spring.
Speaking of offloading him, they sent him to Pittsburgh. with Russell Wilson, and I kind of went on a tangent, a rant last week. I said, Russell Wilson is so unique that everything on his resume tells you 8 or 9 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowl appearances, holds a trophy, all-timer. You almost never see anybody criticize publicly an all-timer quarterback. And, Harris, the cornerback who played in Denver, came out and said, he holds the ball too long. It didn't work. He misses plays. And I'm like, could somebody give Russell a break? Like, what is it? Maybe it's because Russell never pokes back. But I do think the Russell Fields component, that combo is fascinating, because I don't think Russell would go there unless he got guarantees. And I don't think Justin Fields would be as optimistic as he's been if he didn't think he was going to get a shot. How do you think it plays out?
So let's start with the Russell component. I think one of the issues Russell's had over the years, and this is, I think proven true with 2 different teams now, is with relating with his teammates. And, I think one of the superpowers that a lot of the truly great quarterbacks is they can be like the celebrity over here, right? And then over here be a normal guy in the locker room. And Tom Brady was great with this, right? Like, where he was a celebrity outside of the locker room, but just another player inside the locker room to his teammates. Josh Allen is great with that. Patrick Mahomes is great with that. Like, you see those 2 guys, with the 12-pack of Coors Light playing golf in the cart, right? Like, and that's really who they are, and that's how they come off to their teammates. And, their ability to be a regular guy is something that Russell's never really had, which I think has caused him problems with some of these teams. And what exacerbates it is things like having the office in Denver, right? So can he break down those walls with his teammates in Pittsburgh? I think that'll be a very real question. How do his coaches receive him? That's a real question. And so what Russell was promised coming into all of this was, you have pole position. That means you're going to get the first snap in the spring when they start OTAs, and next week Russell Wilson will get the first snap, and he'll be working with the first team through OTAs and into the summer. He is their starter right now. But Mike Tomlin's gone back on these things in the past, right? And look at Kenny Pickett 2 years ago. He was running with the threes for all of training camp. By week 4, he was the starting quarterback there. So while I think Mike Tomlin's very much a man of his word and will give Russell Wilson every shot to be the starter for the entire year, for the entirety of the 2024 season, he's also got, this duty to the other 51 players on the team that he's going to do what's right for them. And if what's right for them come July or August is for Justin Fields to be getting reps or competing for the job, I don't think Tomlin would be shy about pivoting. Again, he did it 2 years ago. Coming out of the Ben Roethlisberger era, and with Kenny Pickett on the roster, Pickett was working behind Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky through all of training camp and wound up being the starter by early October. Not impossible to see a similar scenario unfolding with Justin Fields if Russell Wilson has some of the issues in Pittsburgh that he had in Denver.
So I'll make this argument. You could not give Aaron Rodgers a tougher opener than Monday Night Football across the country. And among the other things is, if I have a defensive coach, ask Pete Carroll last year in the opener against Sean McVay, or anybody that faces Andy Reid in September, offensive coaches come into the season with new wrinkles, and they have an advantage, absolutely. Also, the weather's better. It's easier on quarterbacks. September is a offensive head coach month. And increasingly in football, by the end of the year, it's offensive coaches that meet in the Final Four. But the other thing that jumps out to me with Aaron is there are 3 new offensive linemen and a rookie, 4 total on the O-line. The O-line is understood, Albert, always understood in football. It's the chemistry unit and the hardest to develop with new players. Asking Aaron, with 3 new pieces in a rookie, to go to the Bay against Bosa and the Niners, that is a tough ask. Is that not a rough opening week for Aaron and the Jets?
I almost think the worst thing about it, Colin, is having to come back on a short week from the West Coast, going west to east, right? Like, so, you're back like Tuesday morning. Your Tuesday is sort of blown up in shots. So now you've lost Monday and Tuesday preparing for your week 2 opponent. I've actually meant when I saw that earlier today to go back and take a look at the first Monday night game and how often they've asked a team to go from east to west and then come back west to east on that Tuesday. I actually think that might be the toughest element of it. I think all the things you're mentioning are certainly valid. They also have a little bit more time to prepare for the Niners and have time to focus on the Niners a little bit more. But it's definitely a tricky one for the Jets. And don't forget this too. I mean, there's the whole storyline of it being the Monday night week 1 that Aaron got hurt.
Yeah.
And so we've got all of that buildup and all those reminders of what September 11th was last year, for the Jets, where on that Monday night, Aaron Rodgers goes out and blows his Achilles. What was it, 4 or 5 plays in?
Yeah.
So in a lot of different ways, this does feel like not the ideal scenario for the Jets for your reasons and for a couple of the ones I just laid out too.
Monday morning quarterback. It's not long before Albert Breer heads to Nantucket and has that tan, is sitting up there.
I'm already working on it, don't you think?
Hey, I'm looking ahead too. Albert Breer, Monday morning.
So I'll get you live from the deck then. We're going to have to set something up where I'll be coming live from the deck, right?
Yeah,
so you get the sunshine in the background and the boats and all that.
I'm jelly. I'll say it right now. I'm not a man of envy, but every time I do a live shot with you in the summer, I am very envious. Good seeing you, buddy.
You live in the South Bay. I mean, I don't know. You got me, what, 50 weeks out of the year? I can get you for 2 or 3.
Fair enough. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.